welcome to another In Conversation. I'm so excited to be joined by my friend Van Jones. Van, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's an honor. I'm glad to talk to somebody sane.
In these times, it's all we need, right? It's all we need.
Serious. Serious.
Well, we definitely have a growing friendship because of a lot of the things that we're aligned on. And you have always been a person that I have valued your perspective. I've admired how you communicate your views so effectively, and especially being in the public eye. And one of the things that I really, really love about you is your willingness to reach across the aisle, so to speak, and talk to people that have different views from you. And I know in a time right now that is very difficult for a lot of people, even though those conversations are needed.
Mhm.
I've built a little community of people that are really looking for ways to still reach across the aisle because we need those people. We can't just cut them out of our lives completely, but finding ways to talk to them is becoming more difficult. So I'm really wondering how you're able to do that so effectively and
Mhm.
still have your moral clarity intact, but move forward with progress with people that you don't necessarily agree with.
Well, it's because I have my moral clarity intact. The people I care about are, in my faith, what Jesus called the least of these. He said we were going to be judged by how we dealt with the least of these. What does that mean? That means the addicted, the convicted, the afflicted, the evicted, the poorly depicted. People don't. Okay. And the thing about it is, so I've worked, with folks behind bars, homeless populations, folks in Appalachia. Those folks need more friends and fewer enemies.
Mm,
When you don't have nothing, you don't need more enemies. And so a progressive politics that is primarily being seen as a politics of basically insulting people to get them to be on your side. So every man is toxic. Every white person is racist. Every Jew is a colonizer. Every billionaire is evil. Now follow me. That's not as persuasive as I think some people on the progressive left think that it is. And so for me, it's because I'm very clear. I am not going to get people out of prisons in red states like Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Texas without talking to Republicans. 80% of African Americans are locked up in red or purple states, which means at some point or another you're gonna have to talk to a Republican.
hmm,
There are not enough middle-aged, middle-class black guys for me to solve all of our problems by ourselves. There's just not enough of us. And so I'm going to have to work with people from a different race background, class background, gender background. Now, if I don't have a mission, if I don't really care about moving the needle, well, then I don't have to talk to anybody. Then I can just say, like, everybody, screw you and screw you and screw you too. And, I can just have Twitter thumbs and feel great. I might even get a big following. I might get a bunch of likes and follows, and people will tell me how great I am, but I just can't help anybody.
yeah, yeah. Have you found that there is a specific thing that has been a common ground for both sides?
hmm Look, usually when I'm being effective in politics, I'm in some government building, state legislature, city hall, someplace, and I have the two never been defeated superpowers to my left and to my right, walking down those marble hallways. To my left, I'll have a black grandmama with a church hat on. Undefeated, never been defeated. You are not gonna out argue a black grandma with a church hat. So
Facts.
undefeated. And then on my right, I'll have a white grandpa with an NRA t-shirt or a MAGA hat on. Also undefeated. You're not gonna out argue white pawpaw with an NRA t-shirt. And you say, well, how? Okay, that's great. So you're never going to lose a fight with those two. But how can you get those two together? And it's very simple. It's three words. These damn kids. That's it.
Okay, you gonna have to elaborate on that one. Keep going.
Because that's the one thing they can agree on is that these damn kids are in trouble. These damn kids need some help. These damn kids need some manners. These damn kids. So once you get them talking about these damn kids today, you can usually find something. So I run bills usually that are these damn kids bills. They're trying to help kids who are in trouble. They're trying to help kids who don't have much. They're trying to help kids who are locked up and need to be lifted up. And and the great thing about when your constituency is never going to vote in any upcoming election, is doesn't have a PAC, can't afford a lobbyist, can't afford a lawyer, can't afford to stamp to send a letter. The people who come and help you from both sides are the best people in both parties because they're not coming to try to get a paycheck. They're not coming to try to get a PAC endorsement. They're coming to do what's right.
Yeah.
And I found conservatives, um, even MAGA conservatives, even Donald Trump himself have taken action to help people who are at the very bottom, people who are behind bars, people who need help, and Democrats as well. So yes, um, if you are working to help the people who don't have much, and the younger and the less well off, the best in both parties comes forward.
I want to follow up on what you said when you said even Donald Trump himself, because I know you had success with him in the past with the First Step Act.
Mhm.
Do you feel like this is a different Donald Trump from them?
I do, I do. Um, when Trump 1.0, I think he was shocked that he won.
Hmm.
And a lot of Republicans didn't really want to deal with him because they thought that he was a fluke. They thought that he was unacceptable. I'm sorry, you got some people coming in behind me.
No,
Um,
you're right.
they thought that he was just unacceptable, and they thought that he was somebody who was going to really bring disrepute to the party. So a lot of people stood back from him, which meant he was much more open-minded and much more willing to entertain people like myself who didn't support him on everything.
Hmm.
But find this thing to work on. We could find that thing to work on. We could work together on criminal justice reform. We could work together on opportunity zones. We could work together on getting more money for black colleges. He would accept support from people who didn't subscribe to his whole agenda. Also, his whole agenda wasn't really that clear. Trump 2.0 is different.
Yeah.
His agenda is very clear. I think it's authoritarian. I think it's, in some ways we're like the left who cried wolf, because progressives in Trump 1.0, every tweet was the end of the republic. Everything he did was, we setting our hair on fire. So now people are like, yeah, we've heard all that before, but now I think he is legitimately pursuing authoritarian playbooks and authoritarian aims, and so that makes it much harder to want to be in any type of dialogue. But then also, he won't accept half support, 10%,
Yeah.
90% support, 99% support. You have to be 100% supportive. So I'm kind of doubly uh, um, uh, less. I'm twice as less likely. I don't know. I'm not good at math. I'm twice as less likely to want to mess with him because I'm more afraid of him than I was. Yeah, I remember now. I was in 2016. I was saying that he was likely to win, and as a liberal, as a progressive, as a Democrat, people were like mad at me for even saying that. I
Yeah.
said, but look, I mean, in May, May 2016. I posted a 5-minute video, 3.5-minute video, explaining why Trump was likely to win. It went massively non-viral because people thought that was crazy. People were literally laughing and thought he was a joke candidate. But I could see he had a real pathway. And so I felt like the Democrats underreacted to Trump when he was running the first time. And then when he won, I think they overreacted and it became, well, he's Hitler. I said, well, come on now. Maybe Berlusconi from Italy, but Hitler, that's a little bit rough. So I just felt like progressives went from underreacting to him 2016 to overreacting 2017 and skipped just rational assessment in the middle. Where can we work with them? Where can we not? So I feel very confident about what we did Trump 1.0. Trump 2.0, there's only a few areas that I think you could justify trying to work with this administration. One is trying to save the solar industry. Um, he doesn't know it, but he's going to need solar and wind and smart batteries and all that green stuff he says he doesn't like, because if you get it, the AI companies are going to need so much energy, it's going to drive energy demand through the roof, which is going to drive energy prices through the roof. So that means Sam Altman will be able to pay his energy bill, but grandma probably won't. And
Right.
that Republican, he doesn't understand it yet, but he's going to need to get his boot off the neck of these solar industry, solar and wind and battery companies that Biden was trying to stand up. So on that, um, I'm willing to, because keeping clean energy possible is for my children and for my grandchildren. Um, Other than that, it's very difficult to imagine what would be compelling enough to spend any time not just defending basic democratic norms and institutions, defending
Yeah.
the defending universities, defending the First Amendment. Like, that's a lot of work to be done. Um, so I had a lot of people call me like, how can we, you know, work with him now the way you work with him then? I said, he is different now, much bigger, much stronger, much more determined, much worse agenda, and much less tolerant of any dissent.
Yeah, it's definitely a different beast. And you said something that kind of put on a light bulb for me when you talked about how they responded to him in 2016. They didn't take him seriously, but then they went to the extreme when it wasn't as bad as it is now. Do you think that that's what the Dems' problem was with their messaging in regards to him this time around? That they did too much the first time, and so nobody was listening to them this time?
Yeah, look, I think the progressives lost a lot of credibility because every day it was the end of the republic. Now, I will tell you, by the end of that administration, I was ready for him to go, Trump 1.0, and cried tears on television when he left, because he was wearing folks out,
Yeah.
but it wasn't Hitler. Like, I mean, that was the thing. It was he's a fascist. He's a Hitler. Like, you guys just don't study enough politics. There's authoritarians that aren't literally Hitler. And so, and when you have different kinds of authoritarians, you can work with them differently. And so, but this is directly out of the authoritarian playbook now. Smash down the media, smash down in the courts, smash down Congress, smash down the academy, and run over um, civil servants, people who work for the government for little money, but big belief, um, and replace them with all your friends and your cousins and whoever else is just going to do whatever you say, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and
Yeah.
that is so we now finally have in 2025 what people were screaming about in 2017.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
kind of people stopped listening to you in 20 so.
One of the things that we're facing right now, and I know you've talked about this and the benefits of AI, but I think one of the fears that we have is how we consume news now. We're also oversaturated with news, and AI is in the mix. So I'm curious, as someone who works in that space, how you would communicate to other people how to consume news, when to take a break, who to believe, and how to process it, because we're flooding the zone right now, and there's a lot being thrown at just your average person that's trying to watch what's happening in the world.
Well, the first thing you have to know is that you are being lied to and you are being tricked, no matter what your algorithm is showing you, because your algorithm is not your friend. Your algorithm is a friend of a corporation, or it's a friend of a foreign actor, um, uh, trying to sell you stuff, either products you don't need or ideas that are probably wrong. That's what your phone is. And you say, well, no, that's what their phone is, but my phone is right. you know, that's what his phone is, but my phone is correct.
Right.
Really? Is that what you think? Really? Right? And so no, your phone is lying to you just like everybody else's phone. And 6 years ago, you ordered a yoga mat or something, and your phone figured out you were a liberal, and ever since then, it's just been giving you liberal stuff no matter what you do. So,
And
um,
ads for yoga classes and yoga mats. Yep.
and so that means that we have to take responsibility for going outside of our comfort zone and seeking out um, quality information from the other side. And so I spend a lot of time listening to Ben Shapiro, a podcaster who's very conservative. Um, uh, Mark Levin, who's a radio guy, very very conservative. I used to listen to Dan Bongino before he like left to be in the Trump administration, um, because I want to know what the other side is thinking, and they're not dumb. They're looking at the same news and coming to different conclusions. They put their emphasis on a different syllable, even when they're reading the same sentence, and so we have to, and I want to know because then when I go on air, I've already heard their point of view before, and I really thought it through and considered it. And so then when I push back, I'm not just saying the same liberal stuff they already in their minds have refuted at 8 a.m. They came on Fox News that morning saying the liberals are going to say this, and here's why they're wrong. And so
Yeah.
and so I'm listening, and I'm like, okay, actually, Ben's kind of correct on this point. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I need to back up for a minute. Let me look. Okay, I'm not going to argue on that point because but on this point, I think that they're weak. So when you see me on television, I usually am pretty cool, calm, and collective because you see me in the evening. If you had seen me in the morning,
It's
throwing,
a different Van Jones.
throwing shit at the wall, what the hell? So, um, so it's like, but I really encourage people, whoever you are, assume that you have just unbelievable bias coming at you from your phone,
Right.
and you have to seek it out. Um, uh, I tried to make a like a Finsta account or whatever you call it, like a fake Instagram account to try to like follow just purely things that I disagree with. But I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't. I was like it was too much. I can't. Even I have my limits.
I love it. You're like, nope, 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 nope. That's so funny.
Yeah,
Just to solely consume
yeah.
far
Just
right news.
I said no. I tried. I'm just
That's
have. But
hilarious.
at least but now I realize like okay, there's a limit, and people are inside of certain comfort zones. Those comfort zones are bubbles,
Yeah.
and you know. But the other thing I'll say is that I listen to and watch a lot less news than people would assume. I don't spend a lot of time watching TV.
Yeah.
Um, I'll get on the elliptical or get on the treadmill, and I'll listen to The Economist. I'll listen to some New York Times stuff. I'll throw in a little right wing podcast, but I try not to. Look, I try to read books.
Yeah.
This world is complicated. This is not an easy world to understand, and
Mm.
just try to understand it based on this thing and this thing and this thing. So I audiobook a lot. I'm really interested in AI. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really interested in that. I'm interested in all exponential technologies, quantum computing, blockchain, clean energy, space, private space, all that stuff. I'm very interested in the future. And so I think because I'm really more interested in history and the future, when I show up in the present to talk about the news today, I don't like, I don't go viral cussing folk out and jumping up and down. Like I think I'm a little bit more balanced because I read books. A lot of people don't read books
Yeah.
anymore. They might watch
Yeah.
some.
Yeah.
They might watch some YouTube documentaries.
But an
Nothing wrong with
actual
nothing wrong with it.
Nothing's wrong with it, but nothing beats a hardcover book in your hand. I completely agree. I completely agree. I just finished reading last year Cast. Did you read Cast by Isabel
I,
Wilkerson?
it's on my list. I know it's very powerful.
Man, it should be required reading for everybody. I
Mm,
recommend it to everybody because you have such a deep understanding of the
mhm.
world after reading that book. I want to back up to because like I mentioned AI. I'm like this for a few reasons, and I think you understand a lot of people are. I think there are so many benefits to AI. I absolutely do. But what scares me is, like, for example, what happened the other day with which you may not have seen because you don't really consume news that much, was the leaked audio of JD Vance talking about Elon Musk. It turned out to not be real. It turned out to be AI.
Mm.
And so when we're already in a world where we're questioning what's real, what's not, who do we believe, who's telling us the truth, how does AI play a part in that? Because for me, knowing that we're not able to replicate people's vocal inflections, their vernacular, how they would say things, and then it's not real is terrifying to me. It really is.
Uh, well, look, that's just one. That's one dimension of AI,
Yeah.
and that part is bad. And there are going to be a lot of people get tricked and hoodwinked, and people have been getting tricked and hoodwinked before AI. Um,
True.
you know, the Nigerian prince is still running around my email.
Most successful scam of all time.
Exactly. Exactly. So, it's not good, and I'm hoping that some of the stuff is kind of like Transformers. You have to have a good AI to fight the bad AI, right? That's Transformers,
Yeah.
like the Decepticons versus. Um, so I don't know. I hope that they come up with some good solutions for that. Here's what I know: I think it's not going in reverse. It's only going to go forward, and we focus a lot on you know black folk in particular. We can be kind of threat sensitive for good
Mm,
reasons, and maybe not as opportunity sensitive. I was just talking to a young woman who's running a startup in Israel. They're using AI to like solve really tough medical problems, looking for molecules that are like basically like wonder drugs, and going and instead of taking 15 years, it's taking 2 days. I mean, they're really doing so. Now, how do we make sure that they're the people who are focusing on biotech and AI medicine are including everybody and looking like there's some opportunity shaping things that we can be focused on. Um, artificial intelligence is um, very powerful. It's
yeah.
going there's going to be some very good things happen, some miracles that happen when it comes to energy, when it comes to medicine, when it comes to all kind of discovery. There's going to be some horrible things that happen because anytime you have something that powerful, that's what it is.
And
And
in
so,
the wrong hands, yeah.
and by the way, whose hands are the right hands? None of our hands are clean. You know what I
Good
mean?
question.
Like, I just think we need to have everybody engaging because I know for sure that if it's only one group, one demographic, one history, one point of view shaping it, it's going to be fucked up.
Yeah.
If it was all me, if it was all you, if it was all like, there's 8 billion, soon to be 9 billion people here on this planet. Up until now, there have been two forms of intelligence on this planet. There's been biological non human intelligence, also known as nature, the natural world, the earth itself.
Yeah.
Very wise, very smart, biological, non human intelligence, nature. And then that gave rise to human biological intelligence. That's us with
Yeah. Yeah.
our wetware in here, doing what it's doing. Now we've given rise to non-human, non-biological intelligence. So now there are three intelligences on the planet: the
Hmm.
natural world, us, and artificial intelligence. And how the three of us relate to each other will determine the future of my children and my grandchildren, God willing. So it's an important moment for us as a species. You know,
Yeah.
we, we're, you know, Mother Earth now has a grandchild,
Hmm.
right? And the grandchild is, you know, capable. Think about this now. capable of living forever, an AI, technical ability,
Yeah.
capable of surviving the rigors of space, right? So it could be that it's just too hard to get our physical bodies into spaceships and to Mars and to the next galaxy. But these folks can, these little things could go. You could have some, you could put AI on a spaceship and send it, a very long way. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's a huge development for our species. And it could also end very horribly.
It could, and I loved how you said like the three different intelligences, and now we have to learn how to communicate with one another and coexist, right? It's interesting because I feel like just us alone, we haven't figured out how to do that with different communities, right? And that's why we've made progress, obviously. And this
Hmm.
is one of the things that you and I have been aligned on. We always talk about like specifically bringing the Black and Jewish community together, but we know that like all communities need to come together in order for us to make progress. They always say liberation is a group process, is a group project. So what do you suggest people do community wise to get out of this individualistic mindset so that we can actually make progress? Because if we can't even figure out how to coexist together as humans, bringing AI into the mix, I'm like,
No, look, I mean, there's some really bad scenarios. I just think we need each other. I'm proud to be black. We have a lot of powerful stuff we bring to the table,
yeah,
but we have some deficits too. Um, Jewish community, they bring stuff to the table, but they have deficits. Uh, LGBTQ, Latino, like there's no group that has everything they need all the time. And so if you know that, you're looking for how can I make friends who are people who look like me and who don't look like me, who pray like me and who don't pray like me, who vote like me and who don't vote like me. Because otherwise, I'm not going to have all the information I need to survive and thrive in this world. Most of the time, when I have a real problem, it's always the people who are the farthest from me politically, demographically, that wind up being the most helpful. Because all the
mm,
middle-aged, middle-class black guys, we stuck in the same problem. Now, you know what I mean? It's like
right,
that's not going to be where a breakout solution comes from. A breakout
yeah,
solution going to come from somebody who's, you know, like I said, this young Jewish Israeli woman who's like working on using AI to chase miracle drug. Like that, she's way outside of my world. And so she's doing so, and to her, that's just natural and normal. And she thinks the stuff I'm doing is interesting. And so these are the types of things that, um, we have to just, we need each other. And politically, we need each other. Look, I'm mad at Donald Trump. I'm mad at Elon Musk. I'm mad at all those people. Um, and I've never seen a bird fly with only a left wing.
mm,
Not even in Berkeley, California. I've never seen that. You know, I've never seen that.
yeah,
I've never seen a
yeah,
bird fly with only a right wing. Not even in Tennessee and Georgia where I grew up. So you have to. Um, we need each other,
yeah,
and
yeah,
sometimes we gotta fuss and fight and argue. But um, I know for a fact the Democrats don't have all the answers by ourselves. And I
right.
sure know the Republicans don't have all the answers by themselves. So I can testify on that one for sure.
uh,
So,
well,
yeah.
before we wrap up, I want to emphasize specifically with the community that I've been building. A lot of people are scared because they're seeing the real world impact of what this administration is doing. How do you stay hopeful in times like these, and how do you encourage other people to remain hopeful? I want to end on a happy note.
Well, look, I'm not hopeful, and
Mm,
um, people always ask me, "Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic?" I'm not optimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I'm determined.
mm,
I'm determined. See, that's different. I'm not
yeah,
up here and let people that I don't think have good ideas uh, be uncontested in changing the country in a direction I don't like. I might win, I might not. This is when you go out in the basketball court. You might win, you may not. But I'm about to play. Now I don't know anything about sports, so I don't make a joke. But this is that attitude. Like when you go out there, you, it's not about being optimistic, pessimistic, having hope. It's about knowing. what you are called to do. Do you think it was easy for Harriet Tubman? Do you think it was easy for Dr. King, Ella Jo Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer? Do you think it was easy for any of the people, all these people we put their pictures up on the wall? Do you think they had all easy days?
Mm.
Do you think they didn't have presidents that were terrible? No. But somehow, and they're no different than me or you, they figured out some way to take a stand. They figured out some way, and they didn't always win, and some of them were shot down.
Yeah.
Dr. King, Malcolm X never saw their 40th birthday. So, but why do we admire them? We don't admire them because it was easy. We admire them because it was hard. We that's why we admire them. We don't admire them because there was nothing to be scared of. We admire them because even though there was something to be scared of, they still found some courage.
Yeah.
And so that's all that's required of us is just to remember that our ancestors had it worse and somehow found grace and somehow found dignity and somehow found a way. And we owe it to them. We don't have the right to quit. We don't have the
Mm.
right. If they went through that, we can get through this. That's all there's to say.
Amen. Words of wisdom from Van Jones. Van, thank you so much
Yeah.
for joining me. I always love chatting with you.
All right. I love you too. I love spending time with y'all. See you back out on the West Coast soon.
Yes, sounds good. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.